Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome. I am JC Byrne, and this is Michael Roberti, Mike, and we are live on episode one of the LOBCast, which I named because and I'm gotta mute my other tab. So we have a chat open. I'm not used to doing this. And let's see, where are we? So I'm sorry, I'm not really good at this. I haven't done this very often, so please excuse the lack of professionalism. Mike, tell us a little bit about you. You got a lot going on. You just revealed a title, right? Really recently? Was that today? I saw it today. I don't know if it came out today.
Yeah, I did the I released the cover. I think I might have thrown the title around a few times, but I've got my next series is going to be Hoofprint, and it's in the Traderverse, same as the Crown and Tide series, where the words disappear when you die. And it is going to play a role in it. It's really going to take a prominent role in my big series I eventually want to do. But I'm kind of waiting till I have the skills to tackle that. But it's about I kind of borrowed a lot from The Witcher, but also a little bit from I want to say I'm trying to think of a comedic action. I mean, other than Deadpool, but it's not that funny. But it's about this guy. Hey, what's up, guys? But they call him Hoof Thrice Failed because there's a line in chapter 2. The only 2 chapters I wrote so far where it's he's some guy mentions his name, Hoof Thrice Failed, and because they ask him how do you know how to do this? Did you train with monks? And he goes, yeah, I failed at 3 different things. And he goes, oh, I just thought you failed at the one thing 3 times.
It's great.
Yeah, so I think it'll be good. It's about this guy. He's got a hoof mark on his cheek from where he got trampled, and he's supposed to be kind of a quasi-religious soldier that protects the people from all sorts of supernatural stuff, but he really just wants to be left alone.
It's like a paladin / Witcher kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's also with the aesthetics of a snow samurai, and I'm gonna try to make it kind of pulpy. And it basically it starts off, and this guy comes to his little shack, and he's like, "Hey, so I need you to rescue this kid. He took up his father's sword." And Hoof's like, "Oh, that's a bad business. That never works out." So it kind of goes from there.
Nice. That sounds great. All right, we got Bill, we got Kevin. Nice. Thanks, guys, for joining us so much. I want to give a little. Bo, nice. Good to see you. I want to give just a real quick background. We were supposed to do this. I don't even know, a year ago, 6 months ago.
It's been a while, dude. Yeah.
So this was to me. I heard about this from AR Rhythm, the 1-star bar, which is what he calls the one of the things on his Discord. He still uses that as the name for the hangout area, which I think is hilarious. Anyway, and the idea is whenever someone would get their first 1-star review, we would all have a drink. You were busy. You have a busy life, so I'm always I'm up for a drink. And Mike's I have kids and a job.
Oh man,
so it somehow never happened. And then I don't know how a month or 2 ago on Twitter we're like, let's
do it. Yeah,
let's do it. So I was like, let's call it a podcast, even though I don't know. It's just really our excuse to hang out and have a beer in honor of. So before I forget, because I will. Let me lift a beer in honor of your first 1-star review, which happened a while ago. To you, Mike.
And right back at you.
I've had my share. We all have, but that's part of the. I mean, the new writers sometimes don't, right? So you get your first 10 reviews, they might all be whatever. But you learn pretty fast that there's going to be someone who hates your book, no matter how good it is.
Yeah, that's for sure. And not every book is for everyone. And the one that I always get, and it's kind of become a joke, is when people are I came for the writing disappearing, but that was not the main plot. It's a function of the world, you know what I mean? But that's fine, and that's not for them, and that's cool. I'm not dissing them, but it just always surprises me. Because you didn't explain the writing disappearing. Did Brandon Sanderson, explain the metal burning in people's bodies in that first book? But it is, you can't win them all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm drinking Bud Light Platinum, which is the beer for people who like to get drunk but don't like beer.
Oh, very nice. I'm drinking a bourbon Manhattan.
Oh, nice, nice. I make a mean old fashioned, but I haven't done it in a little bit. Did I put
That's
bows
one
on
of
it?
my
I
favorites.
don't know if I did. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, Mike, tell everyone again what stuff you have out. It's
Yeah. Right now I've got the main one is The Traitors We Are.
Traders We Are.
Yeah, which is book one, and then I've got The Revenge of Thousands, which is a prequel, which is about 30,000 words. It's very short, but gives a lot of context to the characters. There's a little bit of debate about whether which you should read first. I've heard some people swear that you should read Traitors first. Some people swear you should read Revenge first. I think if you read Revenge first, it's like a good barometer for if you'll like Traitors. Traitors has a stronger overall plot, and Revenge is more character work. Like it shows, kind of the things I do, or that I try to do with, like bloody action, but then balanced with sweet moments of like just like slice of life, like discussing like the relationships, and then Grave for Us All is out. If you've pre-ordered it, I'll send the file for the e-arc. And so far, I've been really happy with the feedback I've been getting on that. It seems like it's a lot. I mean, like Traitors and Revenge have both done fairly well, but Grave seems like it's hidden. So I'm happy about that.
You've gotten a lot of positive buzz. If I read faster, I would have gotten to it already. But
Dude, that's one of those things, man. It's like there's so many books in this world, and I feel so bad because it's like like there's like I want to read Matthew Zoric's book, and it's just like I don't have any time to do anything but audiobooks right now. And it's crazy.
I get killed. And I appreciate that people ask me to do their beta reads. I mean, it's an honor, but it's also like that's another book that maybe wouldn't have been really to my taste, but it's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
In a beta read, it's like, well, I'm going to do that. And you try to help someone out. I mean, I end up my TBR ends up just constantly getting shuffled where it's like, okay, this person wants to do a buddy read, they want to put it on their channel. This person wants a beta, and all of a sudden the stuff I would have read otherwise is just all
for sure
pushed to the end. It's very difficult, but well, it's a good problem to have,
right? And I mean, that's the thing is like it's nice to like. I like the fact that there's that community aspect to it. Yeah. Oh, dude, you should read Bill's book. All right. So I don't know if you know this, but Bill edited Grave for me, and yeah, dude, and like I mean, I think that the way that he like took what I had and just kind of said, hey, move this around or do this or do that. But he's got several books coming out. And I think he's got some Felix Ortiz covers coming, so that's going to be something kind of You
have Sarah Chor in editing. That's like
I know the But
you want to be a serious indie author, you got to have an Ortiz cover.
Oh, I know, dude. I actually had somebody like pop into my DMs and be like, "You should get Ortiz to do your covers," and I'm like, "Well, I wish I had the money to pay that for that man to do it." But
it's money and planning. I mean, I think he's got at least an 8-month wait list.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem with my artist. It's like I don't know if I can get him to do 2 covers a year because he's just no matter how much.
Yours are fantastic too, by the way. I remember looking at them and I was like, man, that was I remember the moment though when I realized like, and I don't think we knew each other yet, but there's this moment when I realized I'm like, I just need to do getcovers.com because I was pricing covers and I got a bunch of covers and I was like, okay, well, let me ask this guy. I don't think I asked you, but you were on my list of like people like I think I might have seen it around. But I asked John Palandino about Trials of Ashmount and how much that cover cost, and
he had a good cover.
He had a very good cover, but dude, I mean, God bless him. I'm glad he could do that. But it was funny because I showed my wife the covers, but not the prices. And I'm like, just what do you think? She's like, I really like that one. I'm like, that one, and I don't remember how much money it was, and but it was well without outside my budget. But it's one of those things is like, I think it's good that people are able to put these cool covers out, and I'm glad that they are. But there's nothing wrong too with like people people starting out, just like get something decent and just see what happens. See if people like your book. And I think we're really democratizing literature in a lot of ways recently with like just the fact that it's so accessible. It's so easy to put out something that is at least decent.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, when we look back on these 2 or 3 years, maybe since the pandemic, and we look back on it 5 years from now, we're going to see a lot of indie authors who lost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Because we went into this era where it's like, some of the people making the most money were getting really good covers and lots of editing. And a lot of people are like, well, that's the secret. But like we don't know where the next Ryan Cahill is going to come from.
Yeah, dude.
People made a lot of money because they hit the market at the right time.
Exactly.
And I'm feeling like a lot of people are going to have a much harder time making that money back. But in the meantime, a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just put $5,000 in and then I'll get it back and sell. Like most of you won't. Most of us won't.
Dude.
Okay, I'm including myself in this.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
I'm not trying to crap on other people. I'm saying me too.
No, dude, I mean, 100%. The same thing with like covers. Like, I mean, like there is, and I mean, I will admit there is a little bit of jealousy there. Like, I wish I had like my absolute dream artist is like I forget her last name, but Katarina Paints. She did the new Bob the Wizard, and she does a lot of stuff with broken binding. Yeah. And I talked to her, and I mean, it sounds like she's somewhat receptive for lower price pieces, but I want to pay somebody what they're worth and stuff like that. But I think that is a trap because like there is this idea of, oh, I worked on this for X amount of months or years, and if I just put this on it, it's going to sell so well. And there's so many variables, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, I overpaid on editing. I know John Palladino, he's talked about this publicly. I mean, he did too. It's hard to find a good editor. Now I do. Now I have a pipeline, but until you get the pipeline, especially if you were smart, I think someone like me, maybe I should have been on all these Discords.
Oh, yeah.
But I wasn't. I was sort of figuring it out on my own. And then I got involved. I was like, I already knew kind of what I was doing by the time I got on there. Yeah, Chris McGrath is a legend. Yeah, I mean, this is the dumbest possible way to pick a cover artist, which I told the story a bunch of times, which I literally was like, oh, I should get a cover artist. I look behind me. Oh, there's a Dresden book. Oh, this guy's good. That was the sum of my research. I did no comparison shopping. And like,
that's how I bought my house. I was like, we went to the first house. And we're like, oh, let's buy this one. It's fine.
We almost did that. So so this is my wife's house that I'm in right now. So we've only been married for 5 years. So she's owned this house for like 20.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God. It really is almost 15. It doesn't matter. Before me.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to look at a townhouse development. We went and they had the model homes.
Yeah.
It's one model, and I'm like, this is the house I want. It had exactly the features I wanted, the view I wanted, and we ended up buying it. Like
it
took a year and a half.
Yeah.
To go on the market, but that's the house we now own. I'm moving this summer.
Well, hey, congratulations! And that's why I think we have a very similar temperament, and it's like the impulsivity. And I've noticed that like several times where it's like, I don't know. I was looking forward to this for a while because I was like, I think this is gonna be a ton of fun.
Yeah. I don't remember what. Yeah, that sounds right. No, I know John spent a bunch. I don't remember what his cover cost, but I know his editing was a lot.
Both, yeah.
I think he got like an internet to switch, get a different. It's like, oh, that's rough. I way overspun on editing when I literally just picked. I literally Googled like editor and I picked like the first page. I'm like, oh, I messaged them and I got the wrong person. It didn't work. It was.
Oh, dude, there's a lot of horror stories out there. I don't want to name names or anything like that, but I've heard from a few people where it's like the editor charged them, a couple $1,000s, and there's still like easy edits missed and stuff like that.
Well, you get someone who's like really they think of themselves as the dev editor, and you're like, I really need to be proofread.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't know the difference. You're just like, I just need an editor, and you don't know.
Right.
You're new to the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Explain this stuff, and the editor's like, well, I can do that. I can proofread, and they really can't. Like that's a whole different. Separate skill set. So you end up in trouble. Let's see I haven't gotten my Felix Price yet. Not making that money back. Yeah. That if you can do the indie thing and you can think of it as a hobby, and then if it takes off, that's great. But but if you try to go into like writing indie and let me I think if you go in and you need the money, you probably want to do it differently.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a good point is like, people expect it to like make the money back so quickly. And it's like, it's about the back catalog more than anything. And that's one of the things that's been killing me is I only have the one book really. Yeah. Because I just don't have, I wish I had more time to write more, but
you can't work. You're going to have a hard time making money on ads. And honestly, ads are much worse than they were 2 years ago. The problem with the most effective ads are Amazon ads.
Yeah.
And the price of Amazon ads is driven by bidding. So what you end up having is you have people hearing, and I keep bringing up, I love Ryan Cahill. I use him as an example a lot because he's super successful and deservedly so.
Right.
But part of it is when he did what he did. Like if he was coming now with the same plan, I don't think it would work as well. He'd still be a great writer, but so what he was doing is he was running at a deficit for a year or whatever, right?
Okay.
Losing money, knowing he was building a brand, and
Right.
then now he's doing really well. Well, a lot of people heard him talk about that. Now you've got all these people willing to run a deficit for a year to build their brand. We're all bidding for the same keywords.
No, for sure, for sure.
So like all of a sudden, I ran an ad campaign and I screwed it up, and I forgot to set the bids to what I wanted. I said just use the right bid. You know, there's that click instead of setting it manually, and I was bidding $3.50 for a click, and I lost a lot of money. I mean, it was only for like a few days, but I was like, what the hell's going on? And I dug in. I'm like, oh, that was my fault.
Yeah.
Why would anyone spend $3 for a click?
No,
right?
Dude.
How much you have to sell to make that back? I'd have to. I mean, but click isn't a sale. Click is just
for sure. Yeah.
If you're giving Amazon more than $3 to get because someone clicked on it.
Mm-hmm.
Only maybe half of those people. I don't even know if half of them are going to buy it. How many of them are going to buy the whole series? Some will, but
yeah.
That's someone's losing. A lot of people losing a lot of money bidding it up to 3.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And it's a tough racket.
Mm.
So you're an English teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what level? I know this, but I want to tell the audience.
Okay. I do. So I'm certified, and I've done 9th through 12th. I mostly do 11th, which is in North Carolina American Lit, and then I've been doing lately a lot of 12th. I used to do a lot of 10th, but they've kind of switched it up, and that's kind of nice because 10th is the state test, and I'm not a fan of that at all.
I dealt with that in Maryland when I was a teacher.
Dude, it's rough.
It was all the standardized tests after No Child Left Behind.
Oh yeah,
right. It drove a lot of the testing. I taught from like 99 through like 2011.
That's about when I started.
yeah, I'm an old man. But that was when the standardized testing was really picking up, and it completely transformed education.
Yeah.
You know, when I started teaching, and this was in inner city Baltimore, in a pretty rough school, in a pretty low performing school.
Yeah.
You know, the attitude was a lot like just make sure the kids at the end of the day are in the same shape they were at the beginning of the day, and you've done a good job, right?
Yeah.
I've been showing them a movie, then if you can teach them something, that'd be great. But no one really cared, kind of.
No, I feel you.
You know, and like the testing changed all that.
Yeah.
Like you can be against it, and you can say that like it's bad in all these different ways, but like on some level, having some level of accountability.
I agree with that. Actually,
it was useful. So, you can say it was done wrong, but
yeah. Well, I think so, and I think it depends on a lot of different factors. So I like accountability because and as you know, and as probably all of you all know, there are a lot of bad teachers out there, like a lot of bad teachers. But somebody like, I'm assuming you and I'm going to go and do the same job regardless. You know what I mean? Now I will say that it keeps me a little bit more focused on certain things.
Yeah.
But to me, like, all right, so the English 2 test in North Carolina, and without being too overly critical and without like saying something that's going to jeopardize my job or anything like that. Right. It's basically just figurative language and reading comprehension, which is great. But if you're going to college and we're supposed to be pushing kids to college, what is the primary thing they need from English? Essay writing. Essay writing and reading independently, which is the comprehension, but multiple choice questions on a passage they've never read, and especially with things like theme where it's so subjective. You know, we've all taken these tests where like the first and second answer are basically indistinguishable. It's I don't know. To me, it's kind of, and the thing is, it seems like they change it in years where people do good. So I don't know.
I know. I hear you. Education's a rough racket. But we're here to talk about our hobby, not our day job.
I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't your fault. I got you started. I'm like, let's talk about teaching, because that's a topic I can go on about because I did it for a while. But all right. So you did you pursue the trade world when you started writing? Did you shop for an agent and do all that jazz?
Yeah. So actually, I like with like a quick aside, like, so I actually wrote a book back in like 2014 or 15, and maybe about 2 of them. And it was terrible. It was completely awful. It was 80,000 words. I never really edited it or anything. But my sister has had an agent since 2012, and I kind of saw what she was doing, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. So I just decided not to write for a while, and I tried every so often, never got any traction with anything, and then I finally was like, I have this story in my head, and I've had it for years because this is like sounds kind of weird, but like, so not only does my Dungeons and Dragons group play in the setting, but like there's like now like 2 other groups that play in the setting as well. And I was like, this is something, if people like that I don't know are trying to like, play in the same world.
Okay. You don't know them. How does that work? Like what tell me the deal, because I'm curious.
Okay, I got you. So my college roommate, and actually this is a thing I didn't realize, as we talked about earlier, I'm very busy. I can handle one group at all. That's it. Most of my players were playing in like at least 2 groups. So my one friend is often a dungeon master, and we developed the one part of the world together back in college. And that's not the part that Traders takes place in. And in fact, I almost didn't put those 2 things together until like way later. But so he started with his group in it. They loved it. And actually one of the reasons I wrote Traders was his group was like, we're going to write a book set in this world. And I'm like, no, I need to have some sort of proof that I came up with, especially at least this half of the world. And then, so his group started it. And then another guy from that group started another group on it. And it's kind of virally gone that way.
Wow.
So I queried, or I was going to query, and I did Pit Mad because my sister told me about it, and she actually like was super involved in the trad world for a while.
So if your sister published, can I like go to Barnes and Noble and find one of her books there?
No, so that's one of the reasons I didn't pursue it, is because she's had an agent for 10 years, and she's had 2 really well thought of agents. She had a Revise with Penguin, and so her book, the one that they were trying to shop at the time, was kind of like religious but not religious. It was kind of on the fence of that, where it was cynical towards religion but also embracing religion at the same time. And Penguin came back, and I think they said something along the lines of make it more religious. And her agent's like no, I don't want to deal with that, and dropped her. So she got another agent, but then that fell apart or whatever. So I mean, she's still agented, and I know that, but she's a mom now and has a lot of other responsibilities, so it's kind of tough. So the one, but she was like in Pitch Wars, she was a mentor for a while. And if you've heard of the book The Hate You Give, she's acknowledged in the back of that book.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's she's
nice.
And she's very talented. Like she's a very good writer. But it's just like, I think like, that's the game, it's, you never know what's going to happen. So I did Pit Mad. I got an agent and I queried that agent. That was back when the first chapter of Traders was like near 7,000 words or something like that. So I eventually changed that. I never queried with it, but I did 12 queries, and I was like, I don't like this. I'm just going to self-publish.
12. Okay.
Yeah.
You have more fortitude than I do. You have more. In 99, I wrote a book and I sent it to Tor, and I got 1 rejection letter, and I gave up.
Yeah, I remember you saying that, and that is fantastic. If it makes you feel better, I forgot the story till just now. I used to like write a lot of poetry, and that was the one creative writing class I ever took was poetry, and I was like, similar to you actually with the covers. I was like, where do I send these poems to? And I saw one of my favorite poets / songwriters had a poem with Columbia, and like I saw like, I sent to Columbia, and that didn't, obviously I did not get published in Columbia.
Right. Yeah. Like, oh, these guys publish poems. I'll send it to them. Ignorance is amazing. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible strength if you use it properly, right?
Right.
I know any better. So
it really would help the world if they were just a little bit more ignorant.
Yeah. Sometimes you get stuff done that way.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, and it's always tough with kids. I remember I was just talking to someone, and it's like, oh, I've got all these things going. He's like, how do you manage all that? Like, I barely, and he said, this is talking to me here, Juan Chu, who's a fantasy book critic. And he was like, how do you do all these different things? And he's like, I barely have time to like take care of my kids and like my job. I'm like, my kids are grown. My youngest is 15. He lives with his mom most of the time. So when I have but even then he's not spending his days with me. He's going to school, and then, I don't have to like bathe him. He's 15, right? And just say, Max, make sure you take a shower. And he takes a shower. I don't have to do anything. Like, it's so much easier. So I didn't, I was older when I really started releasing books. And
definitely.
basically, more or less, Not little, not little.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, my son's turning 8 tomorrow, and like I've noticed a huge difference just over the last 2 years. Where like I told my wife this, and I feel bad because it's like with driver's ed, I'm not here as much.
Mm-hmm.
And like the other day, I was getting my daughter out of the car. I'm like, here's the key to that. And he, I guess, did this for my wife all the time. He's just like, I know how to open the door. And he just comes and opens the door for me. I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. That's so useful. Yeah. And then, but if I could get my daughter to be somewhat more reasonable and not a absolute force of nature, I feel like I can get a lot done.
You said she's 3?
Yeah, she's 3, dude. She's gonna be 4 in June.
It's just waiting it out.
I know, dude. I know.
I mean, it's tough. That doesn't make it easier, but I remember when those transition periods where all of a sudden you realize you don't have to travel with like furniture anymore, like when they can eat at a table.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh man.
Right? Remember traveling with like high chairs and stuff?
Yes.
Or, like, oh, like she's 3, almost 4, right? When you can like leave the diaper bag at home, like that's just like this huge transition.
It's such a relief. She's at that stage now though where she's inconsistent with pottying. Because I've heard girls are different with this. But like, so she'll do really good for a while and then just all of a sudden go right back to like, oh, I'm a baby still. Yeah. So
I'm trying to remember, but my daughter it was a long time ago. My daughter's 20. So obviously we potty trained her, but do I remember all the details?
Obviously it worked out.
By now she's got it. I do not remember the details. It's been a while. Yeah. Where's Bill? Tiny terrorists, but at least they're cute. They are cute. Yeah,
they are cute.
Tiny terrorists. Yeah. Any kids in your books?
Yeah, actually. So it's a slight spoiler for traders, but not a huge one. But a really big fan. Well, so like there are a few fan favorite characters I've noticed, but a lot of people like I guess I'm really bad at pronouncing names, even names I've come up with. But I say Zira, but she's
you can't be bad at it. That's your name.
My wife has corrected me because like all right, I have a confession. So and one of the major characters in the books is Orden. I always said Ordan for like a very long time, and my wife's like, that is stupid. But like it's kind of like, do you ever watch King of the Hill, the show King of the Hill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hank Hill can't speak Spanish at all, or Peggy Hill can't speak Spanish at all.
Yeah, but Peggy pretends.
That's me with everything.
Okay. Yeah.
And like I'm trying so hard, but like, and like I love multiculturalism and I love trying new foods and I love all this stuff. But I go to a restaurant, I'm like, I like this one, please. And then they'll be like, "Oh, can you say it?" I'm like, "No, I can't say it."
I can say it. That's fair. They're okay with that.
But yeah, Zira's the only kid. Well, I'm not gonna spoil anything.
Well, here's a good one. Why do you think some of your characters are fan favorite? What do you think makes a fan favorite? What is it about them? I'm trying to figure this out because I've had characters of people like, "Oh, we love these guys," and I'm like, "Okay." I mean, I wrote them. I'm glad.
Yeah.
But I'm always like, why? Why did you love these guys? And sometimes I feel like I know, but I don't feel like I have a system. I don't feel like I have like a fully worked out theory or even a hypothesis.
I got you.
Do you have one? Do you know why?
Yeah.
Let me back up. Can you write a book and then be like, can you if we quizzed you before anyone else read it, can you say, you know what, I think these 3 people, they're going to be the fan favorites and be right? Or do you have some idea? People are like, "Oh, we love this guy," and you're like, "Oh, I didn't expect that."
I'm gonna send you a name. This is the character that's gonna be popular in Hoof. I'm not gonna say it out loud. You don't say it out loud. We're gonna see what happens. So far, this character only shows up in chapter 2. He may not show up in other chapters. I think people are gonna be like, "Oh man, we need to see more of this person."
Okay.
All right. So, but all right.
I don't know what I'm talking about. Space Bears.
Yeah, dude, the space, honestly, dude, the fire language of the Space Bears. I think, as you know, my son was just throwing up violently in the back of the car on the way to Florida while I was listening to your audiobook.
You told me.
Yeah, it was just like, it was a weird, just like the experience, like, I don't know, something about it just worked. But so I'll talk about a character that I know is very, very popular and probably is most people's number one favorite character, and I think I know why she's so popular. So Freya Andersey is very popular, and the funniest thing about her and most of my characters is whenever Traders was going to have a few point of views that sometimes popped in, but it was mostly going to be the story of Kale Oberlin and whatever. And then so I write Kale's first chapter. I'm like, yeah, this is good. So then I just like, well, who else do we need to hear from? Well, we need to hear from this guy. He's going to be important to the story. So we did Emil. And I was like, well, we did Emil. Let's do Merrily. And it just kept on spiraling from there. And I was like, well, this is not really Kale's story. It's kind of everybody's. But Freya Andersey was introduced to be a best friend to Kale that was not romantic at all.
Sure.
Because I don't think there's enough platonic male-female friendships in literature or in life. And so I was like, well, we need to, and with a lot of characters, you need that counterpoint. And Kale, especially in Traders at the beginning, and then again in Grave, is kind of sullen. He's a little bit depressive. And I kind of feel like in some ways I kind of drew upon some of my experiences with depression for Kale. Just that feeling of like inadequacy a little bit. And then also that fear of like, what if everything happens? So Freya is kind of like the counterpoint to that she says whatever comes to her mind as soon as it comes to her mind. And she is like, she's like a bright ray of sunshine a little bit. But also about as deadly as Kale is, and also has that tendency to deconstruct things. And to not spoil the scene, but she meets this boy at some point, and they're in their 20s. Most of the people in the book are in their 20s, and like he's like not really accepting her advances, so to speak. And she's like, "Do you like girls?" And he's like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, like I understand if you don't like girls, but like what are we playing with here?" And I think that's kind of like
this is a match. What's going on?
Yeah. It's like if you like boys, we can maybe go meet some boys.
I think competence is a good one. Is a good thing, right? I remember Brandon Sanderson, one of his lectures. I think it was one of his lectures was talking, or maybe it was writing excuses. Honestly, I'm not sure. He's talking about what makes a likable character, and we like competent. Like we don't, not that you can't like, but one thing that we like in characters that makes us like more is when they're competent. We like when they're good at something.
Yeah, for sure.
You can get away without that, but that really helps. So like someone who's deadly, like we're attracted to that,
Yeah.
And I think some of it's just, I always think of everything in terms of what's your power fantasy, right? Like we like a character that a filter because they say whatever they want, and we like to be able to do the same.
For sure.
We don't, right? We don't, right? So I'm always about the characters who say whatever's on their mind, and Bill's threatening to get the name out of you somewhere. I have it written down and a note that I'll keep forever. So then when the truth comes out and we see who loves these characters, I'll say Mike predicted it on February 10th, 2024. Yeah. He gave me the name and he was right, and I can verify. So I pasted it into a little document.
There we go. That's all
we like competence, and we like people who say whatever they want. I think that's part of the joy we have in crime fiction.
Yeah,
just do what they want. Like, I want that. I'm just going to take it out of the window. And I'm like, most of us are never going to do that.
Right.
Like, most of us would, on some occasion, right? Someone cuts you off, and you would just like to bust a cap on them. You never would, right? But it's a really pleasant thought.
No, I get you, and that brings up another thought that I've had a lot, and I think I think this is a common enough trend and trip that people thought of this before, but you did you watch the Bundy tapes or know anything about the Ted Bundy at all?
Very little.
Okay, so
I know the name, but
yeah. So interesting thing about Ted Bundy, and interesting thing about a lot of serial killers. But when Ted Bundy went to trial, a lot of women went to his trials dressed up as his victims, and it's but why? You know what I'm saying? And then I've had many high school girls who are all obsessed with serial killers, and it's kind of there's something to that danger and something to that also I think that it's I think maybe even so I think competency is one, and I think the things that are otherworldly a little bit, the things that we can't really fully grasp or comprehend, and that are dangerous. But on the other end of the spectrum with Freya, so I've actually been threatened by multiple people that she needs to survive to the end of Crown and Tide 3, which I'm not going to say what's happening. I don't even know. Who knows? I kind of know, but I don't know all the way. But I think for Freya and a lot of other characters, it's somebody, especially because like I would say I'm not grimdark. And actually, I was talking to Andrew Meredith, and he was saying that like I guess technically what I am is like noble dark, where the characters can change the world, but the world sucks. And I think that there's that like that the contrast with the world, that familiar thing of like I'm just trying to do the best I can. And I think a lot of people really want that, and they want to see that person do well. You know.
But that's my whole brand.
Mm.
So I totally know. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
the world can be a tough place, and it can back you in a corner. But you know, you're gonna not bend or not.
Right, right.
And
And
Grimdark is
just
great.
when Rohan, like, to not spoil your own book on your own podcast, but when he snapped was like one of the most brilliant moments that I've read in a while, where like you have this happy-go-lucky guy and it's like you're forcing, but we forced you to be back what you were. And I think that that's something that everybody can relate to, you know.
When it happens in media, I love it so much. Like Doctor Who, when Doctor Who finally loses his crap.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure about this, but I remember it most strongly with David Tennant. I don't know if you're a Whovite.
Yeah, I was until I didn't really get down with the Capaldi stuff. And I mean, like it was good-ish, but like I felt like the writing didn't like carry the episodes as well, maybe.
So I watched through David Tennant and the guy after him.
Matt Smith. That's my favorite.
No, but then the guy after him too.
Capaldi.
That's Capaldi. And then like it wasn't on a streaming service I had, so I haven't watched anything until like the last 3 specials are back on Disney Plus. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
The Tennant would have these moments where he's like,
yes,
he's so nice and he's kind of friendly and he's kind of goofy. And then they back him in a corner and he's like, no, you should all be scared of me. The whole galaxy is scared of me. Ask around who they're terrified of. The Cybermen, the Daleks. Who are they like up at night? Like who keeps them up at night? And you can't pull that out in every episode.
Yeah.
When it
comes out though, dude, it just hits.
And it puts, and I'm like, my whole writing career is I want those, I love those moments. They can't be in every chapter, but it's like every once in a while, it's like, no, like I'll joke with you and I'll let you tease me and make, but like at some point I'm gonna be like, okay, you've forgotten who the scary one is. It's actually, and I just love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I guess on some level, why do I love it? I would love to be that efficacious in my life. I would love to be able in my life to have someone say, no, you pushed me too far. Now you know that I'm the scary one. When I'm not, I'm a teddy bear. Right? I'm not the scary one. So, I know that, but that's okay.
So I think that's the weird thing for me is like, so I've been described as being like kind of teddy bear-esque ever since college, but like, so one of the reasons I left Florida when I was in my early 20s, late teens, all my friends were getting on drugs. You know, like we like got chased out of Tampa when we were in a band because like my one of my best friends hit somebody with like a lead pipe. And I was already changing at that point. I'm like, I don't want to be associated with this, but like, so like I kind of have that like that Florida energy of like, I'm gonna get you, and like, but I don't bring it out a lot. And I actually about a week ago almost brought it out again, and my wife's like, you need to go around the corner real quick. I'll take care of everything. Just go around the corner. And like, it doesn't come out a lot because I don't really have a temper anymore. But I think that's what resonated with me is it's like, you made me do this. I have to go be what I am.
Yeah. I had a temper when I was younger. I think I've mellowed. I'm 53. You you care less about everything.
Dude, I love how that happens is like I was telling my students is like, you know, they're like, well, Roberti, he disrespected me. I'm like, who cares? You know, like if somebody was like, goes up to me, it's like, Roberti, screw you. I'd be like, all right, yeah.
I remember being 16 and how much you felt about
everything,
dumb stuff.
Yeah,
right? I remember like, you know, like liking this girl and thinking nothing would make me happy except spending the rest of my life with her. And now I'm like, I was such a dumbass, you know.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that girl. Like, I'm not saying she's a bad person, or I'm just saying,
right.
Like you don't know anything when you're 16. Like it was ridiculous, but at the time, it felt so real.
Yeah, dude.
Attracted to murders, humans are a bunch of evil murderers. I don't know. I think human survival is hinged a lot more on us being able to form like societies that cooperate.
Yeah.
Because you really need someone who will like bring you food when you're sick one winter. Much more than you need to be able to kill someone.
True.
Right? That's a much more critical thing in terms of primitive survival. That's my take. But
yeah, I agree.
I don't know. Let's see, we're on a space version of Tony Soprano when he runs, everyone snaps, everyone should run for a new planet. Yeah, I'm in the middle of writing some of those scenes like right now.
Hmm.
So I'm on a panicky writing sprint.
Oh, that must be nice.
I've written 80 in the last 31 days. I've written 81,000 words.
That's fantastic.
It is, but it is grueling.
I believe it, dude. I believe it.
It is not smart to. But I set it up right. I lost a couple weeks where I shouldn't have. I don't know what happened. And then I had a deadline, and now all of a sudden I was like, "Oh wait, I'm screwed." Oh, oops.
Yeah, yeah.
But I could not have done that like for my second book, right?
No,
it's
for sure.
my sixth, right, in the last 5 years or 4
Yeah.
years. So you everything goes smoother. You kind of get a system together, and you'll see.
Oh yeah, for sure. I noticed that on this one a lot is like with traders, I was like, can I even write a book? And it was just like kind of like I'd write something and rewrite it and rewrite it. And like I had to do that a lot less this time. A lot of Grave was how can I say this the best possible way rather than how do I say this?
Yeah. And I learned a ton of lessons of craft that I didn't have when I first wrote Wistful Ascending. That made huge difference to me. Like really simple stuff, but
yeah,
you like learn like just like passive voice and just like every scene has to turn and like I had a big habit. You know what the worst habit I had was I had a bad case of what nexts. I would write what happens next in the story, but that's not what you need to like. So like, oh, and then they had lunch. And but like nobody cares. Like there's nothing happening in that scene. There's no change.
Yeah.
There's no conflict, there's no tension, and there's no change of state, right? They're just well, I mean, they were hungry, now they're not hungry, but that unless it's a book about food, right? That's not gonna cut.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why travel is so hard.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're on our way to the next city. Now we're a little closer. That's not tension. That's not change. You're just getting closer. You have to put something else in there. And that's why so many writers will put dumb stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, we'll run into some monsters on the way. Or
oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm doing in chapter 3 of both.
This one person in our group doesn't want to come and they're being a huge pain in the ass about it. So that'll make tension. So there's tension as we go, and that's how we make it drive the story. I just skip all that.
Yeah, no, well, and normally I do. So this is the problem I'm running into. Traders, Grave, Crown and Tide, ensemble cast. So one chapter happens, somebody else is talking about the next chapter. It's a while before you get back to that person. Things have changed a little bit. They continue on. Hoof is just Hoof. And like, all right, what's this dude doing? So I'm trying to figure out how to hyper focus on this one guy and make him enjoyable to read. And I think people like his dynamic. So like his main traveling companion is an old wolf. And so like to spoil the monster scene a little bit, basically he's going to be like, like traveling in the snow, trying to get there. He looks in the distance. He sees, in my world, was like kind of the equivalent of orcs, but it's slightly different, called Lessermen. He's like, oh shoot, they don't see us. This is great. But there's 2 wolves there. And then his old wolf next to him is offended that there are wolves with them and decides to go attack these rival wolves, as dogs do. And so he's like, no, come back. And, he chases after him. And then he's like, just because they look weird doesn't mean that they're bad. And then they're going to end up fighting anyway, because whatever, I don't know. I haven't got to that part yet. But like, it's so hard because it's like, well, what do I have this one dude do? Why can't I just write about everybody and have them all, eat porridge and stab each other in the back? Yeah.
Well, you gotta figure those things out, and I think they get easier over time.
Yeah.
But that was my big revelation, was the what next is.
Yeah.
And, I remember I had to massively Return of the Griffin, because there was this huge section of the heroes were gathering. Everyone's getting together and like explaining to each other what the situation was, kind of over and over again, and it's like the most boring thing. And I had this one friend, a friend from high school. He read the book, and every page he would put in like he had a PDF, and he had a thing to mark up the PDF. And every page he'd be like, "It's been 5 pages since a fight. It's been 6 pages since a fight." At the top of every page, 17 pages since and like I didn't appreciate it at the time. I was like, "Yeah, F you, John," but like on some level, like it wasn't that there needed to be a fight every chapter.
Right. There should be something.
To be tension. There needed to be a conflict. There needed to be tension and a change, like a shift in polarity, a turn. They call it a turn of a scene. Right? Something shifts. Yeah. Oh, now I understand this. So now I'm your enemy. Even if it's no blows being exchanged, right? It doesn't have to be a fight. That's the thing that took me a little while to figure out. I threw in an extra fight there, which helped, but yeah, and then it's just about like learning how to do that and keeping track of all of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, so like one piece of advice that really helped me was one of my favorite authors, Kurt Vonnegut, said every character should want something, even if it's only a glass of water. So like, what does this one character want? Even if it's just like, I want to own a successful inn and not go poor, show that, show what is driving them. Don't have them just be like, be there.
Man, he just wants gold and a room full of a tavern full of wenches.
Yeah.
And ale.
Okay. Weird question. Do you ever get offended when you read old literature about how easy it must have been back then? Like and I mean, I like the Wheel of Time books I've read so far, but it's like nothing is happening here. There's been, speaking of pages before like a fight, or like Dragon Ball Z back when I was a teenager and like a young child, where it was like, and I heard they recut it, which makes me so mad because I was like, Goku's gonna go Super Saiyan this episode. And it was like 50 episodes of him going, and like how easy must it have been back then.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know that I think of it as being offended. I don't read Wheel of Time though. I tried rereading it a couple years ago or a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And I read the first two, and then all of a sudden I was like, wow, that was like a lot of pages for not a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I have a way of measuring books. I think of it as density of stuff.
Yes.
And stuff is just like, it could be a lot of things. It could be like a cool fight scene. It could be like a cool character. It could be like a cool idea.
Yeah.
It could be like a turn, like a scene turn.
You're right.
How many are there per a cool idea? Like, I really like the Tavern.
Yes.
You remember that from Wheel of Time? The concept,
yeah.
Right? I love that, right?
Mm.
So that's a piece of stuff. Right. How many things, almost like, I don't really count them, but you almost could.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Get a notion, how many are there per page? Right? So you can have a lot of cool things, but if it's taking you 10,000 pages to get to them all, I'm like, well, what's the density of cool stuff? Because I only have so much time. I can buy books, right? But like, I only have X amount of time to read.
Right.
If you're gonna make me wade through 800 pages to get to a few cool things, I'm moving on to something else. And that was what I found with Wheel of Time. And I think two things happen. One is that's better for newer readers, because to newer readers, all the stuff is cool.
Yeah.
But once you've read a bunch of stuff, like, oh, they're traveling through like this haunted forest. I've seen that 1,000 times. That's not new or cool to me. That doesn't count as stuff. But if you're like never read fantasy before, it's like, whoa, he's the chosen one. That's so cool. He's just a farm kid, but he's really going to save the world. That's amazing. but like you and me, like, again, like, that doesn't earn you any points with me anymore because of me. I'm the problem.
Right. No, I get that. And, I started reading them for the first time last year.
Oh.
And so like, I love the first one. I thought the first one was really, really good. The other thing too is as an English teacher, I'm kind of okay with that a little bit. Like, oh, this is where that trope came from. Whereas, so like if I read a book that's super old, I can enjoy that. The second one was the one that kind of got me for a little bit, and I do the audiobooks because time, but it took Rand's main goal. What he wanted was to leave this castle at the beginning of the Great Hunt, and it took like 2 hours for this dude to leave this castle, and almost nothing happened in those 2 hours. And so it got better after that. And then Dragon Reborn, I'm not sure why I bounced off of it. I think I was doing more like indie reviews at that time, and I came back to it and liked it a lot. But the thing for me too is like, those things that they tell you not to do, where like Nynaeve is pulling her braid, a woman is folding her arms, under her breasts, and and I mean, I get that his wife was his editor, but it's just like, like you could never do that now. Like that's like that time for that is over. If you wanted to be popular.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of. I don't know. I don't know that I read as much. I part of me wishes I could go back and reread a lot of the stuff I read when I was younger, because I read it a long time ago. I don't really remember. I read a lot of stuff. And again, it was like, if there was a cool fight scene in there, I could read a boring book.
Yeah.
And because I was little and there was nothing else to do.
Right.
There were no video games.
Yeah, for real.
Didn't exist. We had Atari 2600s. Those are boring. And I don't even know when I got one, and not when it was new. Right. So like, it was, I'll read anything, and if it wasn't a lot of like density.
Yeah.
It was still fine because it was better than nothing, because nothing was my other choice, making it my own choice, right? So I read a lot of stuff that's probably not good by today's standard. But I remember reading but then you have to be able to appreciate on some level, like this is where it came from.
Right.
War of the Worlds. Did you ever read War of the
Mhm.
Worlds? Like not a good book, right?
Right.
If someone rewrote that today word for word, you'd be like, dude, very derivative.
Yeah.
But it's the opposite, right? Everyone else is derivative of War of the Worlds. Like so many science fiction elements, like the heat rays, like he invented that. I think.
Yeah.
It was like the first time.
Mhm.
It's amazing. If you imagine you've never read an alien invasion story before,
Yeah.
now like, oh come on, and like, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. No. Go ahead.
But there's a lot of stuff where like these cool ideas, and if you read them and appreciate them for that, you can appreciate them on a level. But if you just read it as, is this a good book? Forget when it was written. Then you're like Asimov. You read Isaac Asimov.
Right. Yeah.
Cool ideas in there, but the writing's not that great. I feel terrible saying it, but like
No, I
compared
agree. Yeah.
to modern writers, he was kind of a hack in a lot of ways. His characters weren't great. His dialogue wasn't great. But he had some cool ideas.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly important that he was there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what reminds me of. I saw this band a few years ago that I really like, and my friend had never heard them. It's like, so what'd you think? And he's like, oh, they sound like a lot of other bands. I'm like, they invented that style. And he's like, oh shoot, So like, and I get that completely. Is like, or like Tolkien. Like, I really love Lord of the Rings, but I don't want to read Lord of the Rings all the time. You know what I mean? Some people do, which is great for them. But like stylistically, like, I mean, he nailed what he was going for, but it's very hard to like sit there and read. You know what I mean?
I'm not a Tolkien fan. I'd rather watch the movies if I had a choice. I'll watch.
Yeah, same.
I haven't seen the movies in a while either. No, it's not my favorite thing. Yeah, Daniel's my least favorite content. The character doesn't want to do the thing the story is obviously about. Like the guy doesn't want to be a superhero. I totally agree. That drives me nuts. So favorite character, Perrin and
I think they just met in Dragon Reborn, and I haven't read the fourth one yet. I'm gonna be honest. Like, all right, probably my favorite characters are Tom Maryland and his dynamic with just literally anybody. I love the fact like he is the kind of character that I wish I wrote, where it's like he's just like when they show back up in his life and he's just like, oh no, why are they back here? Why am I dealing with these farm kids again? And I really like Matt. And like I think the way that Matt relates to the girls after they become Aes Sedai is kind of interesting because there's like that camaraderie still there, but there's also that lack of trust somewhat because he's like he's gone through the whole thing with the dagger. They healed him, but he's like, this kind of all sucks. And he's like, oh, that's weird. Egwene and Nynaeve are going to be Aes Sedai, I guess. And but like it's weird because it's like he doesn't want to do it, but it's them. But he also doesn't like the Aes Sedai, but it's them. You know what I mean?
Did you watch the show?
Yeah. So Bill got upset. Me and my wife both really like the show a lot, like a lot. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but I think that like one of the things that they did well is they fixed a little bit of the pacing at certain points. There are certain plots that I wish that they had kept. The end of season 1 is a little bit of a mess because of COVID and stuff like that. But I feel like, I mean, like if you, and this is what I told Bill, is that if you were somebody who has never read the books, was not interested in reading the books, my wife, who is not a huge fantasy reader but does read fantasy on occasion, was like, I think I'm going to read Wheel of Time now. You know what I mean? And that's something kind of neat.
I'm not someone who did not love the books.
Yeah,
really liked season 1.
Yeah,
I haven't watched season 2 just because I haven't had time.
Season 2,
but no,
it's really good. Well, in my opinion, in my heathen opinion, it's very good.
I need to finish this draft.
Yeah, I get you. So there's one major failure I'd like to talk with you about when you see season 2. And I won't tell you what it is exactly because I know that you read the books like a long time ago, but there's a very big Deus Ex Machina that makes absolutely zero sense, and they don't actually explain that at all. But it's for like a moment, and it's like they should have really shown us that at some point, something about that,
I have a hard time.
The Shan Chan, the way they portray them is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. And he kind of needs to be. That's good, I guess.
Yeah.
Tom was a great bard for sure. Bill wants to know, will they introduce intro fail with how they bastardized Perrin? I don't remember fail. I remember Perrin. They really changed Perrin's story a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with all of it, but I'm willing to give them rope to hang themselves with.
I like that he was married. So like one of my least favorite things, and this is one of the things like that made me drop Dragon Reborn, was like the things that get repeated. And the one about, oh, I wish I was good with girls like Rand is. Oh, I wish I was good with girls like Perrin is. I am so glad that is not on the show. You know, that was really like the first time I was like, ha ha ha. The second time I was like, oh no. And the third time I was like, oh, I think I'm out.
Yeah, I can't stand fail. I don't remember fail. Get so angry with the first one. Who's fail?
I think if I recall, I'm really bad. So here's the other problem is like, and I don't know if like, I almost wonder if I have some sort of weird reading, like phonetic disability. Cause like when I listen to audiobooks, I have no idea how these names are spelled. A lot of them.
Oh
yeah. So like when I review books, it's actually very difficult. Like I have to go look it up and be like, I think that's that person.
I almost do the opposite where I read, I don't listen to audiobooks. I do all my reading by sight, and I can see the words when people say them. I don't know what they're talking about.
Interesting.
You know, like I'm very visual in terms of, and then when I write my character names, I make sure they look visually really distinct.
That actually
use the same first letters, which makes it easier to read.
Yeah.
But I'm very particular about that. If you have names that look the same on the page, that start with the same letter, I get really annoyed.
That's actually how I named characters in the first in Traders. Was I'd like to be like, which letter haven't I used recently?
Yeah.
And
it's such a beautiful writing trick. I'll probably never do this, but there's a part of me that wants to like do a basic writing stuff.
Yeah.
Like not like you can never do this, but just don't unless you have a really good reason.
Yeah.
About the rules, I'm like, they're not rules, but they're really good suggestions.
Yeah.
Like, don't use passive voice. Just really avoid it. And if you're really a master writer and you can put it in there to good effect, fantastic. Lovely.
Yeah.
People can, right? But almost every beginning writer, if they just took it all out of every book, would be better.
It'd be better,
almost,
yeah.
Right?
For
you
sure.
know, just like that, like the stuff like the naming characters don't reuse the same. People think they're being cute. They'll reuse like the letters and the same structure for two different characters. I'm like, no, it's not worth it. You're not being cute. It's not cute. You're just annoying.
When Robert Jordan named two female characters, Egwene and Elaine, I almost pooped my pants. I was so mad.
Don't do that. Just don't do that. Never, never.
Especially like I'm listening to this audiobook, I'm like, all right, I think it was that one. But you know, so I think Fail is the girl that they meet on, I think it's like on a boat, and she's like represented by a bird, and it seemed, I don't know, she didn't do a whole lot in book 3, so I don't really know too much. But like she doesn't like Moraine, which as one doesn't, you know. But you know, it's also like I think I need to get farther in the series before I make more judgments. I did like the end of Dragon Reborn. I thought it really ended very well. And I've been told book 4 is like where it really peaks and starts getting better for a while until that one book where I guess the whole book is just Aes Sedai in a forest talking about things.
I think book 4 is where I stopped reading.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
I was reading it when they came out.
Yeah.
And I think when book 4 came out, I read it and I was like, I'm going to wait until it's done and then read. Because what I would do is I read book 1. When book 2 came out, I reread book 1 and book 2.
Yeah.
I reread the first 2. And by the time I got to 4, I'm like, I'm rereading this a lot. Like, this isn't working. I read The Great Hunt like 4 times. I'm like, I'm not, I can't keep doing this. So then I took a break and I'm like, when it's done, I'll read the whole thing. I did the same thing with Malazan. But I was reading them when they were coming out. And that wasn't, you know. And then recently I tried rereading it from from square one. Yeah. And I made the mistake if I got there's like an ebook of the whole series.
Yeah.
And it starts with the prequel novella, which is not good to read first because you just don't care. Like apparently it's good to read when it was published, like in order, but don't read it first. Don't go to Wheel of Time. I'll start with New Spring. Do not.
Yeah. No, I get you. That's interesting. And I've been wanting to try Malazan again, but every time I do, like I read the first few pages, I'm like, I don't know if this is for me.
I love it so much. I love Malazan. It does. He's got little bits and characters that are like playing with everything in fantasy so much. This guy's like a riff off Conan, and this guy's a riff off Elric.
Yeah.
This whole storyline is a riff off like Black Company, and this and it's almost like all of the history of fantasy is wrapped up, but not copied. They're all like twisted, right?
Yeah.
It's like Conan, but he's not in some very important ways that make you think about Conan more. Like the Conan character.
That's beautiful in a lot of ways. Like that like intertextuality of like
yes, but it's super dense. But I think it would be a terrible like to someone who didn't read fantasy to pick up Malazan first.
Yeah,
you're missing it because a lot of the joy in it is that it's kind of riffing on these other properties that are all known. Not all of it. You don't have to have read everything to Malazan, but Malazan's also very dense. And like the characters will be like known by a different name. You come back 3 books later, and I'm like, that guy was like a major character 2 books ago, and I didn't even realize it until like 3/4 of the way through because he's a different name now, and I didn't catch the connection because it's just a lot.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, I've heard you almost need to have like a reading guide. But I want to circle back to the fridging with Perrin's wife. I don't think that. So I don't think fridging is good at all. And you know, so the thing that I think that was good about Perrin having a wife wasn't necessarily that it spurred him forward and that like at her expense. I think it was better because if you look at, to me, the books, Perrin, Matt, and Rand are very similar at the beginning of book 1, and like to the point where they're borderline indistinguishable. Perrin's a little bit bigger, Matt's a little bit skinnier. Matt gets the dagger, but like none of them are good with girls. They're all kind of nice-hearted guys or whatever. But I feel like it gave him a little bit more depth that he lacked until he got into that whole wolf arc. And then I really did like the conflict in, I think it was season 1, where I think Rand accuses Perrin of being into Egwene even when he was married, and I'm like, that is really good conflict right there. And I mean, again, rest in peace, Perrin's wife, but
him being married to her wasn't. I don't have a problem with that. I had a problem with the way he killed her and his reaction to that.
I feel you. You.
But I'm not going to die on that hill. I'm not going to be like, made it terrible. I'm going to stop watching. I'm not saying. I'm not going like. I'm very critical. Like I can look at any property and be like, "There's a thing I didn't like," but that's okay.
No, yeah, and I don't think the first episode was particularly good. I actually bounced off like after watching the first episode or maybe the first and second episode a couple times before we got through it. But I think that the way it set up that further plot was good with like that Perrin might be into Egwene. That's the kind of like the kind of depth that I felt like really made the characters a little bit more believable, maybe.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to watch season 2. I'm just probably not going to watch it until after I'm done with what I'm drafting right now, and then I've got to catch up on Grim Dwarf because I'm on a deadline with that too. I got to get a chapter a week out.
Wow.
Well, because I release the magazine every week, so every week I need a chapter.
I thought it was like every couple of weeks. I didn't realize it was like every single week. Wow.
8 issues are out already. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, 8 issues are out already. So I'm one a chapter. So I have 18 chapters banked. It's much easier to write than a novel.
Yes.
Just like where is he? Next town, someone picks a fight with him. He beats the crap out of them. Something funny happens. Next town. Right? It's like much simpler to write.
Yeah.
But I need to, I need to always have some in the bank, or else I'm gonna really. I want to stick to something. I want to like get this out for a whole year and not screw it up. Book 4 is where it's at. We're still doing Wheel of Time. Yes. Season 2 is better. They butchered too much of the plot line. I can't speak to that. I never will, because I'm going to watch it, but I'm not going to remember enough about the books to really be able to say how they compared. I'm just going to take the show as if it's his own thing.
That's kind of what I've been doing. Yeah.
I did that with The Expanse too. I read like the first book, and I didn't dislike it, but I didn't feel like I need to read more. But the show was so. Did you watch The Expanse?
No, but I've heard things about it. Yeah.
Love that show. That show. I'm definitely more of a sci-fi guy, I think, than most of the people in our community. All right. So it's not
Right.
a huge shock. If they ruin Ruidine, I'm out. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure
I
it
know,
makes
right?
sense to someone who had read the books. I'm sorry, Bill. I apologize. Uh, Shadow Rising. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that's I mean, putting this into a show is that's a huge ask, right? 14 book series. You can't ever make everybody happy, and you're not going to get like 28 seasons of it. Like that's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
you can't really. Who's excited for Shogun to come out? I read Shogun. I don't know if I have to look at it again. I read it when it came. I don't think I read it when it came out, but it was pretty close to when it came out.
Yeah.
And it was a long time ago. I don't remember it very well. But I felt like Shogun had not enough swords. That's what I remember about Shogun.
Ooh, no. For a book called Shogun?
Yeah, I think it was more modern stuff, like people with guns and like
No.
something else. I don't
No,
remember.
I don't know. I mean, like I'm just said it's called Shogun and didn't have a lot of swords in it.
I read Shogun. It wasn't as much about sword fighting as I wanted it to be, but then
Yeah.
I was more of a Musashi fan. But even that Musashi also. You've heard of Musashi? That's a 5-book series about Musashi Miyamoto. It was by Eiji Yoshikawa. It made the rounds of BookTube a little bit last year. Some people were rereading it. It came out of I think it came into English in the 80s. So this is not new. But the manga Vagabond?
Yes.
That is based on Musashi books.
Okay.
The books are old in Japanese. I think they came into English in the 70s or 80s, but they were written before that in Japanese. Japanese books. Vagabond is more recent. The manga is based on the Musashi books.
I've heard that's really good.
Vagabond is it doesn't end.
Yeah.
So you have to accept that for what it is. The guy just kind of stopped writing it, and it probably will never end. And you have to be okay with that. Like it bugs me, but I really enjoyed Vagabond.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. I got into Vinland Saga a lot. I'm gonna try to get into the manga of that. The one that everybody talks about as the big three seems to be right now is Berserk, Vagabond, and Vinland Saga. But Berserk seems like it's too much for me, from what I understand.
I just reread Berserk for the third or fourth time. Do you know Steve from Steve Talks Books? He was
I don't think I do.
He was on YouTube for a while, and then he still does podcasting stuff, but he's not. His YouTube channel is he started page turning. He was one of the first people doing page turning.
Okay, sure.
Now, Made Between the Pages, Taylor and PJ Stewart are doing. They took over page chewing, but that started page chewing, but that started with anyway. Steve and I and Varsha from Reading by the Rainy Mountain and a guy from Steve's forum talk about Berserk. We do like a volume, more or less. So I've been rereading it again, but I read it so many times.
Yeah.
I started reading that late 90s, I think.
Yeah.
Read the whole. When a new volume would come out, I'd reread the whole thing.
Yeah.
Berserk has very dark and graphic parts. There are parts where it reads like a horror.
Right.
Not consistently a horror. There are parts where it reads like a fantasy, but there are parts where it reads like a horror, and it switches back and forth.
Interesting.
So, it makes sense in the story, like why it's switching, but it definitely has horror elements, and there's definitely graphic sexual violence.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's particularly glorified.
No,
it's not
sure.
the main character raping people and like, "Woo, this is great." It's not. It's
right.
Those are horror elements, but they are on the page.
Yeah.
Brutal stuff, and if you're not into that, don't read Berserk.
That's where I think I'm at, man. Like, I mean, the only panels I've ever seen of it, because like I always heard like how great it is, and then but you always heard about that one scene, the one specific scene, with Casca, and that's the one part that I've read because like somebody posted like the scans of it. I'm like, I'm out. This is too much.
Yeah, I have zero. I'm not going to argue with you at all. Right?
No, I feel like, no, I'm not.
I'm like, no, don't do it. Right? I'm like, I'm a big proponent of read what you're going to want to read.
For sure. I mean, I see why it's for some people, but like that boundary pushing is just not for me.
Hiroyuki Sanada. What did Hiroyuki Sanada write? I know that name. Oh, he's an actor. Twilight Samurai. Yeah, he's a very good actor. There's a bunch of good manga out there. Blade of the Immortal. I'm a big fan of Blade of the Immortal. That's the one that is always unfortunate because the character has a kanji on like I forget what they call it, a manji symbol, which is it's a mirror image of a swastika.
Oh yeah,
like it's hard. It's a hard sell. Now, look, Asians don't use a swastika to mean anything like what Nazis use it for, right? It's a much the characters in the 1800s. It's not a Nazi symbol, right? It's nothing related to that in any way. But then I'm like, all right, but you can't just take it off his back, right? But it's just a hard sell in the West for reasons. I mean, I'm not. I was sure when I was in high school. Yeah, I think I read it something like that. I remember liking it but not loving it. That's what I remember. I should probably pick it up again. The adaptation for TV. Oh, who's excited for Shogun to come out? The adaptation for TV. I think I will. I'm looking forward to that. That should be. So Bo's talking about the Shogun adaptation.
Yeah.
I think there's a few TV shows I'm excited about. Did you watch Blue Eyed Samurai?
I just started it on Friday.
Oh, so good.
I like it so far.
I was really pleased. That's my favorite. Yeah, Daniel, that's how I feel about a lot of this stuff. I'm like, oh, I read that 40 years ago. And then sometimes I'll say that like as a joke.
Yeah.
40 years ago. And then I'm like, oh, wait, it actually was. Like Elric.
Yeah.
I think last time I read Elric, I think it was 40 years ago. I should pick that up again. Steve's YouTube con. Yeah, I love Steve. That was a long story why he left YouTube, but he still does podcasts. He's a super nice guy. Everyone's missing Steve. Yeah. So we do with Varsha, we do Berserk volume almost every week. We're almost at the end, so we're kind of collapsing. There's some stuff where we're collapsing like 3 volumes into 1 week.
Yeah.
There's a slow piece. Here, he's an actor. Yes, Hiroyuki Sanada. I just looked him up. He's excellent. Once I looked him up and saw his face, I recognized him. Yeah, I'm a big fan of some of the more recent Japanese like live action sword stuff, like the Rurouni Kenshin live action movies, which Tori Tekken will talk about all the time. Every time she brings it up, I'm like, yes, those are amazing. They're so good.
I'm gonna have to check that out. We looked at a couple live action anime adaptations that were pretty good. Those are kind of hit or miss sometimes.
One Piece was excellent.
Oh my gosh, One Piece was so good.
Excellent. Yeah. I liked it more than the anime and maybe more than the manga. And I haven't read the whole manga. I've read like 20 volumes worth, maybe something like that. Right. But I thought the adaptation was condensed.
Yeah.
The spirit of what I remember from the manga really beautifully.
It had so much heart, and like the way that the characters just were so. And I mean, I was aware of who these characters were. I'd never read the manga. I had never watched the anime. But it was like, even my wife was like, just like really enthralled by like, we were like rooting for Luffy, like wanting Zoro to succeed. It was just so good.
But that comes right from the manga. Like that heart is, it's pure distilled from like, that's why it's so popular.
Yeah.
That's why it's such a machine, right? Because
makes sense.
It has that heart, but it totally does. And they captured it so phenomenally. I was thrilled by that. And everyone's like, it's great. I'm like, yeah, all right. I'll watch it. And I watched it. I'm like, okay, you guys are right.
That's how I felt too. Yeah.
You're right. It's all good. It's all good. You still move around. Good for a dinosaur. Yeah. I haven't. Kingdom. I haven't seen Kingdom. It's on my watch list. But I have to get to that at some point. I've watched I've watched a lot of Korean. I've read a lot of Korean comics. There's a lot of Korean web comics. They got really into that, I think, before other people did, where there was all this stuff that was formatted for your phone.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Comics are in one huge vertical strip.
Yeah,
you got and the pacing is there's a lot to read to get to the story. So it tends to be a lot. It's a big investment of time, kind of like with the light novels,
right?
So some of the Royal Road stuff, where you're just wandering in it's good, but there's a lot. But if anyone has a chance to read Tower of God, Warrior's coming to. Bo's asking if we watch Warrior. I have not. No. But it's coming to Netflix.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, I will. The new season is going to be on Netflix. I don't know if Netflix is getting the old stuff, or if they're just getting the new season. I don't know, but I'll watch it.
Yeah, I might try it.
Bruce Lee's idea, and I've heard the action's amazing, and I love martial arts stuff.
Yeah.
I'll definitely watch it when it comes out. Whatever I hope they get the old season so I can catch up. I've just been watching the Daredevil Netflix show.
Is that good? Oh wait, no, the Netflix one. I watched that. I was going to ask about the new Disney Plus ones.
The new Disney Plus Daredevil show is not out yet.
I thought it was.
No, they're filming it now. So Charlie Cox as Daredevil has appeared on some of the other Marvel shows.
Yeah.
So he was in Echo. He was in and She-Hulk.
Okay.
I thought his appearances were good. Those shows in general, I feel, are a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Like She-Hulk, it's just a lot. There's a lot of shows, and the tone is inconsistent, right? Because She-Hulk is very much like kind of a lighthearted comedic thing, and it didn't necessarily go with the other stuff. And there's a saturation problem. I personally will just watch that stuff all the time.
Yeah,
I love all the Marvel stuff. I just do. I'm a comic guy,
Yeah, I mean, I fell off of it recently, but I've always been a comic guy, and I liked WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier, and then
the problem with WandaVision is WandaVision didn't really make sense with Doctor Strange, the movie. They didn't quite meet.
No, I feel I would agree with that, but I would say that as its own,
yes,
WandaVision was fantastic.
Yeah. I agree. I loved it. What wasn't good? Winter Soldier, the Falcon Winter Soldier show was not good.
I liked it.
I didn't like it.
Really?
I thought it was fine. Secret Invasion, I didn't like.
I didn't do that one. Hawkeye was good.
I liked Hawkeye for what it was. I liked Hawkeye a lot, actually.
Yeah, it was very similar to the Matt Fraction run. And I love Matt Fraction.
I didn't like the Shield comics particularly. It's not my thing. Like, I'm a superhero, but I have regular people problems. I'm like, yeah, all right, I get it. That's fine, but it's not what I relish. I'm more of a punch some things. You can have personal problems, but at the end of the day, you better be punching some stuff. And Shield didn't do enough of that. WandaVision was confusing. That's fair. It didn't. Yeah. Because once you have some character with reality altering problems, nothing really makes sense. Where are we? They messed up Doctor Strange, then vice versa. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends how you look at it. I'll take that take. I think that's fair. But it's like the character who showed up in Doctor Strange wasn't really the same character who finished WandaVision.
That's a good point.
They gave her the same character development like twice. Like she came to some realization at the end of the show, and then she lost it, and then showed up in the movie.
Yeah,
this isn't. They didn't work with each other, but they worked separately. They were fun.
No, for sure. I think like if you watched one but not the other one, it would not be an issue.
Yeah. And I have a bias against multiverse stories.
Yeah,
which I agree with Brandon Sanderson. I don't know if he's the only one who says this, but his whole thing is like, look, there's a multiverse, and like, oh, this is my wife, and but in the next universe over, there's someone who's almost exactly like her, except for this one tiny difference, and then your wife dies, and you're like, oh, I'll just go pick up the other one. Like everything all the stakes go away. It's like nothing really matters. It's like when a whole universe is destroyed, like casually, which happens in the Doctor Strange thing, and you're like, they destroyed a whole universe, and like nobody cares. That's a spectacular changing of what stakes mean.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that reminds me of did you see where they brought the Fantastic Four back after they got rid of them?
In the comics?
In the comics, yeah.
Oh, which time? Probably
like recently. It was like within like last 5 years, probably.
No. I haven't read a lot of comics in the last 5 years.
So I every so often I'll get Marvel Unlimited. It was a really good run, but like so that was really interesting. Was Franklin? Do you know Franklin Richards Powers? Yeah. Okay, so they were basically Future Foundation was going through like exploring multiverses and literally just having Franklin create a universe to go explore. They go explore it, create another one, and like what are the repercussions of that? And I mean they do kind of go into that a little bit, but like that is so irresponsible. And then like you're talking about like he's basically their god because he created all these all these life forms. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to pull that off.
Yeah.
I think that's like hard to pull that off. It's hard to pull off multiverses in a responsible way that make your story still make sense. It's hard to pull off time travel to have your story make sense. Like you can kind of like do it in kind of a funny way. Like Doctor Who kind of does it in a way, and it's like we're gonna wink wink, and he doesn't just travel back 15 minutes to defeat the bad guys when why
Right.
because he just doesn't because they
Yeah.
know they make the show suck, so they don't
Right.
have to do it. So you just all agree we're gonna forget that this could be done. But like but that's why I like. Did you ever watch Legends of Tomorrow?
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it or watched it.
It was on the CW, right? And it's like this team of time travels. Like they have to fix the past when someone else goes in the
Yeah.
timeline. But it was all played for a laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so goofy and silly. And it had heart, but it was goofy.
Yeah.
So like, they're punching Abraham Lincoln. And it was just amusing because you didn't have to take it too seriously. So you ignored the plot holes because it was fine. And like funny things would happen. Oh. Then more said and vice versa. I agree. Far more problems with DS2 than just Wanda. Yeah, I think there's a multiverse problem, and I'm not a huge lover of I like Doctor Strange. I don't know if he's my favorite character, but
he's all right.
How you doing, man? We are celebrating Mike's first 1-star review, something like a year after it happened.
Something like that, yeah.
I don't know, 6 months. I don't know.
It's been a while. And the sad part is, well, hold on. The one for Revenge I could pull up because like I actually posted about it because it was like, oh, the formatting is so bad it's almost unreadable or whatever. But I also got one for Traders a little bit after that, but it was not a review. It was just the rating was just the worst. Just like, tell me why you hated it. Oh, nice to meet you too. All right, hold on.
We're all typing.
Yeah. I am a writer. I'm writing the Crown and Tide series. I'm about to release my second book, A Grave for Us All. It was 7 months ago.
Okay. Oh, that was close.
Yeah, that was almost
a year. All right. Mike has a regular life with kids and jobs and has to wake up, unlike me.
That's true.
Don't. Mike, thank you so much for joining me on the Long Overdue Beer cast. My beer is finished.
Mine drink is finished as well.
We've accomplished our task.
There you go.
And, thank you so much for coming and celebrating your 1-star.
Hopefully I'll be celebrating a lot more 1-stars in the future.
There you go. There you go. We can only hope, and even more 5 stars than that. We've gotten plenty of those. I know Mike's books are treasured on all corners of the internet. Silverstone, Kevin, take care, and thank you very much. And we're going to sign off and take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and bye.